Hi, this is Tom Stone. Welcome to this demonstration session on using the pure awareness techniques to transform suffering into joy in various different ways. Today, we're working with Wesley Baker, if I got the pronunciation right. And Wesley's been suffering from some depression for some time. Wesley, why don't you give us a little background on, what's happening with you, what your challenges are with regard to this?
Okay. Let's see. I'm 27 years old at present, and the last time I remember feeling like actually like at peace in the world and prosperous and hopeful really was the summer of 2013. It's actually around the time that I dropped out of med school.
Ah,
I like to think that the two aren't related, but perhaps they are. But I had a It was around that time that I actually read this book by Jed McKenna called Spiritual Enlightenment, the Damnedest Thing. And it had a very like nihilistic current running through it. And I think I kind of took myself to be a nihilist thereafter and think that the world doesn't have any meaning, intrinsic meaning afterwards. And but as far as my own experience goes, yeah, I've gone through phases where getting out of bed seemed a nearly impossible chore for the day, and I sought to just, because my just resting state of existence was so uncomfortable, I sought to just uh, have alcohol, tobacco, and video games closely at hand all the time. Um, it's a bit better than that now. I can pass for a healthy person to most, but um, I know that like I'm pretty indifferent to life. I haven't really felt happy in a while. Could kind of take it or leave it. Um, yeah, those are some words.
sure. Well, thanks. That gives me a good sense of how we need to approach this. So, what I'd like to do is to give you a little bit of an orientation of how we're going to do this. And just to start, I'm going to explain the generality of what apparently is going on with you. And that is that depression has a tendency to be, I call it dancing around the outer edges of sadness. It could be some other term than sadness, but the idea is that something happens to you that is not meeting your expectations. Like you want to become a doctor and you go to med school and it doesn't work out, or you don't like it, or whatever, you drop out. And so there's a kind of reaction, emotional reaction to every situation that we have in life, right? We always have the circumstances and we have our reaction to the circumstances. So when the circumstances are not meeting our expectations, we get upset, we get angry or disappointed or frustrated or sad or, or depressed, something like that. And this is so common as to be, pretty much universal. I mean, people just do this. We grow up in a world where everybody does it around us, and we just kind of learn to create expectations, which is really the essence of the problem, is the creating of the expectation in the beginning. And then when it doesn't get met, then we have our reaction. Okay? This is one of the forms of what we call reactive emotions. The other form of reactive emotion, subset of that category, is when we're projecting the possibility of a negative outcome onto the future, like we think something bad will happen. And when we do that, we have a tendency to create fear, anxiety, worry. In its worst cases, it becomes like panic attacks and hypervigilance and stuff like that. A lot of people with post-traumatic stress have these kinds of symptoms. So in both cases, the energy of the emotion is a reaction to some story we have going on in our mind. It's either the projection of a possible positive outcome in the future. Oh, it's going to be the way I want it to be. And then it doesn't happen. And then you have a reaction to that. Or it's, oh, I'm afraid something bad will happen. And then you start living inside the story, believing your own story, and feeling, fearful or anxious that something bad, in fact, is going to happen. So this whole category of emotions we call reactive emotions, and they're all actually illusions, but it doesn't do you any good to intellectually understand that. I mean, intellectual understanding is not difficult, but that doesn't resolve the problem, okay? Because the problem isn't intellectual, it's experiential. Now, the other main category of what we call not useful emotions are emotions that are trapped in the body. The energy pattern of the emotion is trapped in the body because we can't complete the experience of the emotional reaction in the moment. So if something happens to you where you get your feelings hurt, or you have some traumatic experience, something really intensely, bad happens, there's a tendency to not complete the experience of the energy of the emotion, of the sensation of the emotion. Now, why is that? The reason that is that when we're little, we all get emotionally overwhelmed many, many times. And I don't know about you, but I've never met anybody who liked it. In fact, we hate it. And this is a kind of universal reaction to not liking the painful, awful experience of being emotionally overwhelmed. Everybody, in their pre-verbal years, before you even learn how to talk, you start doing your best to try and suppress the emotion so you don't get overwhelmed. Now, people get good at that, okay? Some people get quite good at it. In fact, you get so good at it that you suppress the emotion so quickly, you're not even aware that you're doing it. It's like a deep conditioning, okay? And the problem with this is a setup for becoming actually really lousy at handling emotions. And most people are, in fact, really lousy at handling their emotions. We live on a planet of like 3-year-olds in terms of emotional competence, okay? And that's a huge problem. This is why there's such a huge problem with addictions. You were talking about, wanting to do all these things to self-medicate so you don't feel the pain, right? So the self-medicating might temporarily, very temporarily, mask the symptoms, but it doesn't solve the problem, because the unresolved emotional energy is still held in your body, and when the self-medication influence wears off, there you are again, right? You've had this experience over and over again. You know what I'm talking about. Okay?
Yes.
So the solution is not to suppress the emotion, not to get overwhelmed by the emotion. I mean, this is the 2 ways that people deal with their emotions. They try to suppress them. If they can't, it's just too much, then they get overwhelmed and they cry. Okay? So overwhelm and suppression are the common main ways that people deal with their emotions, and they're both, unfortunately, not effective. Okay? Because you finish doing either crying or suppressing, the energy of the emotion is still there in your body. Okay? So something new is needed. Okay? We need like antivirus software for human beings. And that's actually exactly what I discovered. I think you've read on some of my Facebook posts, I got shot in the chest in 1993 by a deranged stranger with a 44 caliber handgun. Hunters use 44s for killing bears. I mean, it's a complete miracle it didn't kill me. The bullet's like, that big. And so there was physical recovery from a couple of surgeries, but the main recovery I needed was from the post-traumatic stress. I had all the PTSD symptoms, nightmares, flashbacks, startle response, hypervigilance, everything. And I didn't believe the psychological and medical community's dogma that it's incurable. Okay? I thought, they got to be missing something. There's something missing in this picture. It must be possible to heal from this. People don't heal from it. They keep it for, sometimes a lot of their life. And in fact, PTSD is so bad. There were more veterans from the Vietnam War that died from suicide from their PTSD than died in the war. It's amazing. So I went looking for an answer. And what I discovered was this insight about when we're little and we get emotionally overwhelmed so many times that we get good at suppressing our emotions, which means we get bad at handling our emotions, because suppression is not a solution. When you sweep it under the rug, it's still under the rug. So what's needed is to learn what's needed is some new element. You know, it's like new technologies are being discovered all the time. What we need is a new technology for actually resolving emotions, not suppressing them. And what this involves, I discovered, was I had to experiment with doing the exact opposite of what we're deeply conditioned to do. So rather than try to push the emotion, push the sensation of the discomfort away, or, you know, retreat from it, or just collapse into it and get overwhelmed and cry, rather than do those things, what I realized I needed to try out was to get my courage up and allow myself to see if I could complete the incomplete experience of the sensation, of the energy of the emotion that was just too much to handle when it happened. I couldn't, and this is what people experience. They can't deal with it when it happens, especially because they have this habit of being so terrified of being emotionally overwhelmed and wanting to avoid that like the plague. Okay, so you start to even have the threat of something like that happen, and immediately there's a suppression that goes on. So I realized I needed to try doing the exact opposite of what everybody's deeply conditioned to do and have been doing their whole life. So this took me a few years to discover this after I got shot. So this is like maybe 3 years later, and I thought, okay, get my courage up. I thought about the incident, and I could still feel the terror in my chest from the whole thing. And I said, okay, so I'm going to allow myself to feel it. And I did. I allowed myself to feel the energy, the pattern of energy, the field of energy of the emotion that was holding in my chest. And the first thing I noticed, it didn't kill me to do that. It was like possible. It wasn't comfortable. It was intense, and it was like painful, but I could do it. It was like doable. Okay, and I said, wow, okay, that's interesting. So I just kept doing it for a while, just focusing my attention right into the center of the strongest part of the energy of the emotion. And it took a little while, but gradually the intensity level of the sensation started to diminish. It became a little bit softer. Oh, this is interesting. Maybe I'm onto something here. So I got my courage up even more, and I got even closer to it now that it was softer. That made it seem stronger. Okay? It wasn't actually stronger, it was actually softer, but just because I was closer, it seemed stronger. It's like being on Google Maps and you click in for a closer view, you know, it magnifies. You know? So, okay, I focused on the central strongest part of the energy again. And you can see from the way I'm describing that this is exactly the opposite of what we normally do. Okay, so I did that again. It got softer again gradually. It takes a little while because you're in the process of completing the incomplete experience that you couldn't handle in the past. Right? So I did that. It gets softer. I did it again. Got softer again, and I just kept going, and kept going until I couldn't find it anymore. It was like gone. So I thought, oh, wow, I might really be onto something here. This is pretty cool. So to test it, I thought about the whole experience again, and I didn't feel any terror. It was like gone. So I thought, okay, well, maybe something's working. I'll sleep on it and see how I feel tomorrow. So went to bed that night, slept through the night peacefully. First thing I realized when I woke up in the morning is, hey, I didn't have any nightmares. This is like the first time in 3 years there's no nightmares. It's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I had other aspects of the trauma from the experience. You know, I could hear the guy had come to my front door. I was living in a small town in Iowa at the time, and he'd come to the front door, just a stranger. I could see him through the oval glass in the door. And I started to open the door. It was one of those handles where you turn it to unlock it, you know, turn it and push in and turn to lock it. And so I unlocked and opened the door. And as I was opening the door, he pulled out from behind his back this big gun. And I remember saying, oh my God, he's got a gun. And I tried to slam and lock the door, and I was kind of leaned over a little bit doing that. Well, he stepped over and he shot through the glass. And this maybe one of the reasons why it might have slowed the bullet down a tiny bit. In any case, it hit the lower edge of a rib and it went down through my diaphragm between the two lobes of the liver, ended up down by my fifth lumbar, and just missing major nerves and arteries on the way down, went right between the two lobes of the liver. If it had gone through the liver proper, it probably would have died of internal bleeding. So it was like just miraculous it didn't kill me. So there was healing to do. I had 2 surgeries, and there was healing to do from that. But the biggest part of the healing was from the PTSD, okay? From the trauma of the whole thing. So one of the other traumas was as the glass, it was tempered glass in the door, and I could hear it crackling. And I knew all he'd have to do is just tap it with his gun and reach in and open the door and come in and finish me and my wife and daughter were in the house too. You know, I was like terrified for that. So there were a number of things. The ride to the local hospital was on this bumpy, every bump, you know, it was like painful. The helicopter that came to the small local hospital, they couldn't deal with my situation at the local hospital. So from the University of Iowa hospital, the helicopter was sent. It had a fuel problem, had to land for repair in another city. So I had to wait and wait. Anyway, there were a whole bunch of traumas. So I used this technique on all of them. And within a very short time, all of the PTSD symptoms were completely gone. So I totally cured myself of PTSD using what I had discovered. And this is like unheard of. I mean, people just don't do that, you know. So I couldn't help but start sharing what I had learned with friends and family. And what I rapidly discovered is that you could actually use this insight and this technique to resolve all kinds of problems. So I started training people. And basically since about 1997, it's been over 20 years now, I was establishing a business in the United States. And then I've been, for quite some years now, I've been traveling around the world teaching people, and I'm currently in China, where I'm training a whole bunch of trainers of my system so that we can have these trainings going on in all the major cities in China every month, because I can't be everywhere every month. So I started replicating myself. And for some reason, China ended up being the place to do that. So that's kind of the background. And so what I'm going to do is, one of the techniques that we use is called intuition testing or muscle testing. And this is used by a great many people in a great many different kinds of environments. Some of the training on it is good. People get it reliably. Other training is too superficial. They don't get it, and they say it doesn't work, and they don't use it. It's not that it doesn't work. It's that the training wasn't adequate. So I've been training people how to do this for over 20 years. And it can be done either in person or it can be done remotely. When it's done in person, you have the person hold out their arm and you push down on their arm. And if it's a strong response, it means that what you're having them say, like if I say, my name is Tom, and then I push down on my arm, the strong response is an indication that there's a congruence between what's being said and what you experience in your body. Okay? Like I've experienced thousands of times people call me Tom. So my body knows my name is Tom. Okay. So for example, if you say my name is Wes or Wesley, go ahead, say that.
My name is Wes.
Yeah. So I can test for you with the smaller muscles of my fingers. This can be done remotely. It takes a little bit of training and practice, but it's doable. I have tons of people who have learned how to do this and do it very reliably. And so when you say, my name is Wes, and I test, I get a strong response. This is similar to pushing down on the arm. It's just pushing against the finger, okay? And if you say, my name is Lucy, say, my name is Lucy.
My name is Lucy.
Okay, and then your name isn't Lucy, obviously. I mean, even your middle name isn't Lucy, clearly. So when we test like this, and it goes this way, this is a weak response. This means there's a kind of discrepancy, mismatch between what we're saying and what we experience. Now, the reason we do this is because we want to get a path of inquiry that's really going to lead us to the actual solution to the problem. Okay? If we do it with the mind, there's a very good chance of making all kinds of mistakes, because the mind doesn't give us experiential wisdom. It gives us intellectual understanding. Okay? It categorizes, it measures, it quantifies, it names, it does all kinds of good stuff, interesting stuff, but it doesn't actually give us knowledge. It gives us intellectual understanding. Knowledge comes through direct experience. Okay? For example, if you had never tasted a strawberry, and I tried to describe the taste of a strawberry to you, sweet, tart, juicy, blah, 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 everything, could talk about it for half an hour, all day, and you still wouldn't know what a strawberry tastes like. You got to take a bite in order to get it, right? So your body has within it all of your experiential wisdom. It's knowing. And we want that to guide the process of helping us find where and what the energy is that's causing your problem. And then we're going to use experiential techniques, again, it's going to be experience, to resolve the energy pattern that causes the sensation of the emotion. And we're going to do that in such a way that the energy is going to be completely dissolved or dissipated, because we're going to do it in a new way, a way that you've not known how to do before. And when that's done and the energy's gone, basically the problem is gone. Because it's the energy pattern of the emotion that gives life to the problem, gives life to the discomfort. Now, when the energy pattern is gone, the beautiful thing is there's no need to self-medicate anymore, because there's nothing to self-medicate against, because it's really handled. So that's the approach that we take. We use the muscle testing. We also start each session by using the muscle testing to test from a simple chart that we call the where to start chart. Little rhyming name. And basically, all over the world, millions of times a day, people go to some practitioner, and it's not, the modality that they're seeking is not really the answer that they need. So for example, you've had depression, right? A lot of people will go to a medical doctor and get antidepressant medicine, or they'll go to an herbal medicine doctor and get like something like St. John's wort, which is, it's effective for helping to ameliorate or mask the symptoms. Now, the problem is when you stop taking it, typically the problem isn't gone, and so the depression comes back. Because you're only masking symptoms. You're not actually getting to the real causal level of the problem. So in our human software engineering, we also call it inner greatness optimizing is the new name that we have for this work. And in inner greatness optimizing, we don't like the idea of symptom suppression. We like the idea of truly solving the problem so it's really handled. So we start with this where to start chart because we want to start in the right level. I'm not going to bring up a PowerPoint or anything like that because it's so simple. I'll just explain it to you. Okay. So there are 5 levels. The first level is the level of our experiences, the level of things that we experience in our awareness, in our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, our perceptions. And this is the level at which the pure awareness techniques that you're going to learn and use today, this is the level at which they operate. Okay? The next level up is the energetic level. And this is the level of energies that are too subtle, or their frequency range is outside of the range of what we can experience with our senses and with our body in our consciousness. And so we have this other technology I was mentioning about, we call the quantum energy optimizer, for dealing with various aspects of chronic pain, allergies, ADD, stuff like that. It's a phenomenal technology, and we use it at that level. Okay? The next level up is the chemical level. Okay? And the chemical level, everybody's familiar with, diet, nutrition, supplements, toxins, detoxification, all these kinds of things. If you need that, there are plenty of experts in that field, so we don't need to contribute to that field. It's very well developed. Okay? The next level up is the physical or mechanical level, and this is where we have things like surgery, setting of bones, chiropractic, physical therapy, massage, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, all the physical kinds of, taking a walk, all the physical kinds of things that we do to improve something if the problem is on that level. If you get a splinter, you got to physically remove the splinter. So The fifth level is what's called the environmental level. And this is a very interesting level. This is the level of the returning influence of our own past actions. It's basically the kind of broader interpretation of Newton's third law of motion, which is that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So what it means is when you take an action, there are going to be consequences of that action, whatever they are, and it's going to come back to you. Now, a lot of people think I'm the creator of my reality, which is kind of an illusion, but they ignore this principle, and so they take action on their ego-based thinking, and they do something, and then it has negative repercussions. Okay? So there are different methods of being able to neutralize the returning influence of past actions, but that's like a separate kind of modality. We're not doing that here. So typically the things that we deal with in integrateness optimizing are on the first two levels, the consciousness level and the energy level. And we can only really deal with the energy level either in person or by making remedy drops with the machine and then sending them to the person so they can take the pattern of energy through some energy drops. That's a possibility. We'll talk more about the energy approach and the quantum energy optimizer in a separate webinar some other time. You can learn more about that. But today, we're going to test from the Where to Start chart to make sure that our approach is right. Because if your problem were, for example, chemical, and you needed to handle it chemically, then this approach we're going to use today wouldn't work. We'd be wasting our time. So we don't like to waste time. We don't like to waste clients' time or resources or anything like that. So I'm going to test for that now. And all I need is your permission to test on your behalf. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always get a yes to that question. So, okay. So I'm going to test that Wes's problem of this depression issue is 100% at the consciousness level of the Where to Start chart. Yeah, okay, this is good. And I'm going to do a cross test. There's some other level, one of the other 4 levels of the Where to Start chart, where there's some significant contribution to resolving this problem that could be obtained. No, so 100% at the consciousness level. Great, okay. So this is good. This means that we have a very good possibility of getting a breakthrough, okay? So the next thing is, we want to just kind of clarify how you'd like it to be instead of how it is. So we want to clarify our intention for the session. Now, obviously, we want to get rid of the depression, but rather than stating it as a getting rid of something, we'd like to state it as what would the new reality look like if you were able to step into a new reality that was free of the depression. And you remember what it was like, back, you used to not be depressed, okay, before this whole thing started. So what was that? What were the characteristics of that kind of life that you'd like to have again?
Waking up with energy, waking up with a sense of intrigue, curiosity, and excitement for what the day might hold. Freedom from the general malaise I feel in the resting state.
Yeah. So kind of a passion for life, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tightness in my chest as I say this.
Okay. Actually, it's very interesting that the whole process of clarifying one's intention has a tendency to do what you just said. And that is that it has a tendency to kind of trigger or activate or get access to the actual energetic barriers, and you start to feel them. So this is actually a good thing because it's going to make it easy to identify the energy and resolve it, okay? In fact, we're not going to wait around and do more. Just say I have a passion for life.
I have a passion for life.
Yeah, see, testing is weak, okay? It means there are some barriers to that. Makes it very difficult to step into that reality. You wake up every morning with no passion for life. Okay, so we're going to use that statement to retest after we remove the barriers to see if your congruence with that statement is, in order after we remove the problem. Okay? So this feeling that you had, where was it? Was it in your chest, in your body? Solar plexus? Yeah, in the chest.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the breastbone, and then I
Okay.
felt uh, a brief like tightness at the throat.
Okay. Which one, if you think about it right now, which one feels stronger? The down below or up above?
Actually, really strong at like the xiphoid process, like beneath, right where the ribs are meeting.
Oh, okay, okay. So sort of solar plexus area. Okay, all right. Let's go there. And this needs the in technique. Yes, okay. So this is easiest to do with your eyes closed because you're not distracted by all the visual stuff. So if you close your eyes, I'll guide you through what we call the in technique, and we'll see if we can resolve this. So you're going to learn to do the opposite of what you've been doing your whole life, and it's best to keep your eyes closed throughout the whole technique. So go ahead and allow yourself to feel that feeling you were feeling in your solar plexus. And if it feels like it's kind of too much, back up from it a little bit, but also focus your attention right into the center of the strongest part of the energy. Seems counterintuitive, but it actually works. You'll notice if you do that, focus your attention right into the center of the strongest part, immediately it doesn't feel like it's going to overwhelm you. It creates a slight distance from it. You feel separate from it, and you can kind of just observe it from whatever distance you are. And then you can also adjust the distance so that you're not too far away, not too close so it doesn't feel overwhelming, but just right, where you can really feel the central, strongest part of the energy, but it's not overwhelming. So adjust yourself, adjust how close you are to it, and get it just right. That looks a little better. Can tell a lot from the facial expression. Okay, and notice that it's possible to do this. Even though the energy is intense, you can just notice the central strongest part, and it's just a sensation. I mean, it's like not really that difficult. Yeah, good. Now, what happens when you do this is you're starting the process of completing some intense emotional experience that was just too much to handle when it happened. You couldn't do it then, especially with the conditioning of resisting feeling things fully, with the conditioning of the suppression and avoidance that you've had all your life, just like everybody else on the planet. It's a big club, by the way. It has about 7 billion members. Everybody's got this. It's like universal, okay? As you continue to just innocently notice the central strongest part of the energy field, what will happen is that gradually it will start to diminish in intensity because you're beginning to complete the incomplete experience. So when that happens, when you start to sense that it's noticeably less intense, then let me know.
I was actually, as you said that, I was in a kind of less intense phase.
Okay,
So
great.
I jumped
Already
again
happening.
and pushed it
All
closer.
right. Okay. All right. So bring your awareness a little closer to it. Adjust the distance again so you're not too close. Yeah. From the grimace on your face, you jumped in, you double clicked too fast. So get the distance just right. Just right means you can really feel it, but it's not overwhelming or not even potentially overwhelming. Okay. And if it fluctuates or changes, just back up a little bit. Be easy on yourself. We're not in a rush. Now, you have to understand, we're not trying to make it go away. That would be a residue of the habit of suppression. Okay? We're not trying to do anything to it. All you're doing is simply noticing the central, strongest part of the energy. Back up a little bit. Stay focused on the center. There'll be a tendency to slip away from the center because we're not used to doing this, okay? So when that happens, just refocus right into the center. The idea is to keep your attention right on the central, strongest part of the energy. And then just adjust the distance from time to time to get it just right. That's much better. Yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of seems strange, but focusing on the strongest part of it is actually the safest and best place to be.
I don't know if it's appropriate to share as I do it, but so this like sudden fear springs of like, oh God, what am I? What am I if this dissipates?
So let me just reassure you that everyone who does this is successful with it. And when the energy's gone, you're going to feel better than you've felt in years. So it's totally 100% worth it to hang in there. And these kind of thoughts come up just because this is something new. It's unusual. You haven't been doing this before. But you'll notice as you keep doing it, it's doable. It's not even that difficult.
Right.
So continue to notice the central. Go ahead, say what you're going to say.
I think there's like a cowardly part of me that would just like, nah, let's just do tobacco and video games.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, we're going up against a lifetime of conditioning, Wes. Okay? You've been operating on this, 1 or 2 or 3-year-old's decision to try to avoid feeling emotional pain your entire life. Okay, so you've got lots and lots of experiences of attempting to avoid, but it's not working. Okay? It's not working. Something new is needed, and that's exactly what you're learning how to do. So just kind of be patient with yourself in the process. Yeah, if you get a little surge of the pain, you can back up a little bit. Yeah. Use the adjusting of the distance as a kind of mediator or moderator of the experience. You can always back up for a moment if it gets intense, and then gradually get closer again when it gets softer. But the key to having it really work is to keep your attention focused right into the center of the strongest part of the energy. That's the key. So Wes is doing it correctly. Yes, I'm testing for you. Yeah, you're doing great. So each time it softens, immediately get a little bit closer, but don't rush in. Okay, don't go too fast. Just a little closer, just to bring the intensity level up so that you can really feel it, because we're just completing an incomplete experience. That's what's going on. Now, as you continue to do that, and you get closer to it and closer to it, and it gets softer and softer, right before the energy is completely gone, the experience will start to change. And it will feel like it's kind of breaking up or dissolving or dissipating. A good analogy would be it's kind of like the fog burning off in the morning sun. It's just kind of vaporizing. And so that'll be just before it's finished. And when it's gone, all the energy will have dissipated and kind of moved away. And it'll just have a feeling of quietness, just being quiet inside. And when that happens, let me know.
So I'm letting you know when there's no fog left anywhere, or when a certain area's been.
Yeah, that particular one, that particular energy we're focusing on.
Okay. As we've done this, I've kind of, I'll kind of feel, as if it's as if I was maybe like wading in the water, and then I look down and realize that there's no more water left, so I like trudge back to the where it is.
Yep. How is it now?
It's really not that painful or uncomfortable, but there is like an area that's a bit thicker. It's not
Not really painful, more like a kind of pressure or something.
right.
Yeah. So focus on the area within that feels the most pressured or the most strong, whatever quality it has. Just let your attention be right into the center of that. This is like the residue or like a deeper layer of the energy. And again, don't try to make it go away or do anything to it. Just kind of innocently notice it.
I'm a little self-conscious about how long this is taking.
No need to be, because we're not concerned with the time. We have plenty of time. I don't have any appointments directly after our time together. So as long as you're okay, I'll just hang in there with you, and you don't need to worry about that. And what we want to keep doing is keep bringing your attention back to the central, strongest part of the energy. That's where the process of completing the incomplete experience happens. So that's where we want to keep our attention. And so it's quite different than suppressing the emotion. It's completing the experience of the emotion. This is night and day difference. And as it continues to soften, you'll start to get good at adjusting the distance so it's just right. So it's not, jabbing you or trying to grab you and pull you into it and overwhelm you. You just kind of noticing the central strongest part, and maybe for a moment you'll feel, oh, this is like too much, and you'll kind of back off a little bit and you come back to it. This is developing the skill of learning how to complete the incomplete experience of these traumatic energies that we have a tendency to hold in our body. Les is doing it correctly. Yep. Needs more guidance from me at the moment. Nope. Doing good, man. Hang in there. It's getting better, huh?
I'd say.
Yeah. Good. You're doing exactly right. Just keep going. It's a kind of gradual process. After you've done it 50 times, it'll go faster. But in the beginning, we're going up against a lifetime of doing the opposite. So it's totally reasonable and fine. It takes a little while to kind of get the hang of it. And you're doing great. Some sort of sharper jabs of it that you experience every now and then. And if you make the focus of your attention even more precisely into the middle of that sharp, jabby feeling, and adjust the distance again, so you might even have to back up a little bit to really allow yourself to experience that part of the energy. But if you focus right into the center of that really jabby, sharp, constricted feeling, that's where the essence of this energy resides. And that's the part that we really want to complete very, very thoroughly. And there's absolutely no rush. We just take whatever natural time it takes to complete the experience. And that's all dependent on just how much energy is there. And apparently there's a lot. So that's okay. Just keep going. And
Yeah, there's not even necessarily a feeling of like overwhelm or even pain with the jump. It's more just like a energetic, muscular kind of thing.
kind of like a reflex. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That probably even that will go away. Your finger's partly over the screen, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. How's it going?
I have this concern that I can't burn up any more than this.
Hmm. Does it feel like you're having to make effort
Effort to,
to make it go away?
um, no, it's kind of just right there waiting for
Yeah,
me.
okay. And when you allow yourself to feel it and just sort of noticing it, is there any difficulty in doing that? I mean, it's not particularly comfortable, but is it hard to do or not so hard to do?
I'd say it's not hard to do. It's kind of just like attention rests there and then it kind of just does its thing. It's not a,
Okay. So let me assure you that if you hang in there and just keep doing this, you're going to complete the experience and all the energy will be completely gone.
one session.
I've done this thousands of times with people, and if you hang in there and continue, it's always successful. You can certainly have the feeling that, oh my God, well, when this will ever be over. This is a kind of residue of the old habit of disliking feeling these kind of energies and being overwhelmed by them in the past and not wanting that to happen. So there's what we call it, what I call a residue of that. How's the intensity level compared to when we started?
um, Definitely less intense.
Very good. It's good to recognize that it's working. It's just a process we have to be a little bit patient with and just hang in there. You're doing great. And the payoff of hanging in there is that when it's gone, even though you're feeling somewhat better now, when it's gone, you're going to feel 100 times better. Wes is still doing this correctly. Yes. Needs more guidance from me at the moment. Nope. You're doing good, man. Keep going. and just need to kind of hang in there. As you start to get the hang of this, it's quite common that you kind of become sort of like curious, like, okay, what is this energy really like? And it's almost like you kind of almost dive down into it. It's like you really, really start letting yourself feel it because it's becoming less scary to do that. And so it's like, when you just sort of feel down into it, we could say, then it has a tendency to go even a little more efficiently. But again, there's no forcing it, there's no trying to make it go away. Just letting your focusing on the central strongest part be sort of laser-like rather than flashlight beam or searchlight beam. It's like just right into the very center where the energy really feels the strongest. Just testing for you again. Wes is still doing this completely correctly. Yes. Needs to modify what he's doing in some way. No. I'm doing fine, man. Just hang in there. Is it continuing to get a little softer?
I guess it feels less swampy now.
Okay. Less swampy is good.
Yeah, it's more of just like a jar.
Okay. Okay. So right into the center of that jar-like feeling. Just put your attention there. And just gently notice it. Might be a little too close. Back up a little bit. There you go. Sometimes there'll be a layer of the energy that will complete and you'll have a little sort of a sigh, like kind of like a relief. Yeah, it just happened. I noticed that. And this is very common. It's a good indication that some significant portion of it has been completed. That's really good. Making good progress. In this case, there's just a lot of energy there and just needs your attention. The whole reason there's a sensation there is that the body is like calling out to you saying, hey, come over here and pay attention to this. And this is what we've been attempting to ignore and not do our whole life. And so now we're actually giving the body exactly what it's requesting, which it's just requesting our attention. And so we just are giving it that, and it likes it because gradually it's solving the problem. Gradually the energy is becoming less. And I do reassure you that eventually it's going to be completely gone. And as I was mentioning earlier, when you get very close to it being gone, the experience will change and it'll start to feel like it's really kind of breaking up and dissipating and, sort of fog burning off in the morning sun kind of experience. So you'll reach that point. So I'm just going to check that out. Wes is actually getting close to the completion now. Yeah, you're getting close. How is it now, Wes?
I'm trying to find the words for it. I don't know, it's just like a casual tension.
Okay, so quite a lot less than in the beginning now. The casual tension feeling, is it still in the same area?
It's actually moved. I used to have the sense it was like deep downwards and left. Now it's more in the throat region.
Okay, So what's more likely than it actually moving is that you have what we could call backup copies. Yeah. Sort of like storing the file in multiple places, like one hard drive is full, so you use another one. So this is actually good because we had tested at the beginning there were three energies, and that can easily mean that there are like three different places where the energy is being held, even though it's pretty much like the same energy. We'll see when we get this one finished. We'll retest and see how we're doing. But this is completely fine. So rather than it moving, it's probably just like the one you were working on before has become less enough that the other one is now stronger, and it's kind of raising its hand saying, hey, come over here, feel me. So actually we just do that. We just let the body's wisdom guide the process, and wherever the sensation feels the strongest, we go there. Still continuing to do good. Just no wonder you've been feeling depressed. There's been a lot of stored emotional energy in there. But we're doing a great job of efficiently resolving it. Just have to hang in there and finish the completion process. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. We'll just hang in there and make it happen.
If there's time afterward, I want to talk to you about a scene in Harry Potter. And totally fine.
Okay.
I'm saying that so it'll stop bugging me.
No problem. We can definitely do that.
And this is almost nothing.
Very good. I think you're almost there.
It's like when you're drinking a drink and you get the in the straw.
Oh, yeah. Good analogy. Very good analogy. Yeah, that's great. You're almost there. You'll soon experience this sort of feeling of breaking up of the energy, kind of dissolving, dissipating, moving away. And then you'll experience it being all gone. And it'll just have this sense of quietness, kind of peacefulness. And you're going to be very glad that you hung in there and went the distance.
I've done something like this before, but I've never hung in there like this.
Ah, yeah.
Just like my mind's like, I'll be damned.
So is it starting to feel like it's going away?
Yeah, there's just like a small puddle central and downwards.
Yeah. Finish it off. Just keep feeling it. We want to be very thorough and complete about this so that we don't leave anything. You're doing absolutely great, man. Excellent. Being a trooper and hanging in there. It's really good. When it is all gone, it's going to feel very different. And it may even be kind of almost hard to believe that it could actually be gone. But when it's really gone, it will feel different. You'll know it's gone.
Yeah, there's still a little something of a gravity to it.
It's okay. Still a little bit left. Yeah, still a little bit left.
I don't know. It's more of just like a stone that just I can feel the energy of it, but I don't really feel like in the last 3 minutes it's been any more digested.
Okay. If it feels like a stone or a rock, there's a place right in the center of that stone or rock where the energy feels the most solid, the most like hard. And I'd like you to be very laser-like and put your attention right into the center of that and feel the hardest part of it.
Just a question. So if I imagine like I'm looking at the rock, is it like a laser like looking at the center of the rock, or do I myself like put it so that like I myself am in the center of the rock?
Yeah, you are the laser. Your attention is the laser. Right? So it's like you using your feeling capacity to just allow yourself to feel the essence of the hardness of the rock, which is kind of typically it's located sort of in the center of it. And it's kind of different than how you might imagine. You just allow yourself to notice the place in the rock where it feels the most rock-like, the most hard. Okay. That's the idea, is we're after experiencing the essence of whatever the energy is that's left that you're holding there. Yeah.
Cat's joining me.
You needed the little diversion. No problem. I thought I saw a cat jump in your lap. Okay. Still doing good, man. It's very good. You may experience at a certain point feeling like the rock just sort of breaks up. Just so you can be encouraged about it, Wes, testing that you've actually had your energy shift locations a few times here during this process. And I had tested at the beginning that we had 3 energies. You're actually on the last part of the 3rd one. So when we get this one, you're going to be, you're going to have this part of it cleaned up. And then I'll show you how to do the out technique part, and then we'll really have this thing handled. Did the rock just kind of break up?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's okay. Just let it kind of break up and sort of crumble. I've been doing this so long that I'm kind of sensitized to people's experience and kind of feel like I had a kind of big sigh. I said, oh, something must have happened. So if the rock sort of breaks up, it's becoming a little bit more like gravel. And if there are any sort of chunks of it that feel like they're particularly in need of attention, then just take them one at a time. Feel into the center of the hardest, strongest part of them. And then the gravel will start to become sand. And then the sand will become dust. And then the whole thing will just sort of be blown away by the wind. By the way, I really respect you for hanging in there like this. This is really good. I know you want to really solve this, and you're doing exactly the right thing to do that. So this is great.
You know, it doesn't have that like power seemingly to like make me wince right now or like give me the shake, but
Yeah, the shaking of the head part seems to have stopped. That was a kind of recoiling from the energy, it seemed. And it's softer enough now that that's not happening. That's great. I think you're in the home stretch, man. Really starting to ease up now.
a little heat in my belly.
Yeah. Good to finish that off too. When the energy's all gone, it may almost be a little bit hard to believe that it is all gone. Just because you've been carrying this around for so long. But when it's gone, it'll actually be gone. The good thing is, doing it this way, it won't come back. How does it feel now?
I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a like a rock or a liquid or anything now. It's just like it's a little bit of tension and maybe like a touch of sadness.
Yeah, we're going to get to the sadness in just a few moments. This residual tension feeling, sometimes you can have a feeling like that when the energy of the stress that's been causing the problem is actually already gone. It's a little bit like, if you get a cramp in a muscle and then the cramp is gone, then afterwards there's a little bit of a kind of ache because there's a kind of been a distortion of the tissues actually, kind of like a gnarling of them. And even when the energy's gone, it takes a little while for the body to kind of unwind itself and kind of normalize. I'm just going to test if that's what's happening here for you, because I'm testing that the energy's completed. So this is what's happening with Wes, is this remaining sensation is still some of the energy that's at the root of the depression. No, this is just the kind of residue of the physical presence of the where the energy was. Now the energy's gone. This is just kind of like the unwinding of the fibers and tissues of the body that have been held in this constricted way for so long. Yeah, that's what this is. So we're actually done with this. So let's take a little break. You can open your eyes, and then we'll deal with the sadness. It's actually also that you started noticing the sadness. It's a good indication that it's time to move on to the next part of our process, which will be to resolve these out technique energies. Great job, man. Fantastic. Really good. Really, really good. It's something, it takes a little bit of patience with yourself, a little bit of really hanging in there, and you did that. I really respect you for that. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you probably feel a little bit lighter, like a little less sort of burdened. Yeah. This is a very good sign. Very good sign. We're going to get you that passion for life that you've been after. Okay, so I'm going to describe to you a little bit about the nature of these out technique energies, because they're the exact opposite of the in technique energies. Instead of going in, we actually go out. Because if you allow yourself to feel the sadness, what you'll notice is that the sadness has a quality of a kind of energy that sort of radiates out from the body and fills up the space around you. And it kind of creates a sort of cloud or aura of energy. It's not so localized and sort of concentrated as the in-technique energies. It's more diffused. It's more like a cloud or an aura. And the problem is that it's all around you. And so it's kind of, you're inside of this cloud of energy and you're seeing the world through it. And when that happens, it just kind of like makes the whole picture of your life sad. It's almost like having dark glasses on, colored sadness color, right? And so it's like everywhere you look, you're looking through the energy of sadness. When people have this for anger, which is also, a common one, they'll have something happen, they'll feel angry. The anger is a reaction to, they didn't expect it to be that way. They wanted it to be the way they wanted it to be, but it didn't happen, right? So they have the anger. And they're so in the anger, some friend comes in, "Oh, Tom, how are you doing?" And you go, "Don't talk to me." It's like you're indiscriminate with it because you're caught inside that sort of field or aura or cloud of anger. So it's the same thing with the sadness. It just kind of colors everything.
You read the Bell Jar? Sorry,
what's that?
I was asking if you read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath or heard of that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Say again.
Have you heard of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath?
Oh, no.
Okay, sorry. I interrupted. I'll talk about it later if there's time.
No problem. It's kind of related to what I'm talking about, right?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So again, this first aspect of this involves you allowing yourself to feel that cloud of energy. And so when you think about the sadness, you may be able to just have a sense of it. And if not, I have a technique for allowing you to really be able to get it. Get a feel for that? It's kind of like being surrounded by something, engulfed by it.
The most prominent thing I feel is in my heart area right now.
Okay, so this thing in your heart is probably sort of like the origin point of where the energy radiates out into the space around you. Let me make it easier for you to sense it, okay? I'll guide you through a little process to make it easier. So you had your eyes closed for a long time, but maybe you can do it again. It's a little easier to do with your eyes closed. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just to notice that with your eyes closed, you can still, of course, hear sounds like the sound of my voice and other sounds. You can feel yourself sitting on the couch or chair, wherever you are. Maybe able to feel your hands folded in your lap if they're that way, or however you're sitting. So you feel some physical sensations, some sounds, and the other predominant thing that happens is that you have thoughts going through your mind. And what I'd like you to do is to just observe your thoughts from a little bit of a distance, just sort of noticing the phenomena of thoughts occurring in your mind, not really being concerned about the meaning or content of the thoughts, but just sort of noticing them like an observer. An analogy would be, it's like you're looking up at the sky on a partly cloudy day and just kind of watching the clouds blow by. You know, they might be in different shapes, might even look like something, but we don't bother to make interpretations or concern ourselves with the meaning. So in the analogy, the thoughts are like the clouds, and the background of silence in which the thoughts are occurring in is like the sky. So when you look up at the sky on a partly cloudy day, you can see the clouds, you can see the sky, and it's so easy to see the sky. All you do is look off to the side of the clouds, and there it is. It's there all the time. It's the pervasive background. Like that, your thoughts are occurring in a background of silence. That background of silence is your awareness. It's the very awareness you're using to have all these experiences. Now, normally, we don't pay any attention to it because it's empty. There's nothing there. And it has to be empty and have nothing there in order to allow us to have all the different experiences we have occur in it, okay? Normally, we don't pay any attention to it because not interesting, nothing to experience, okay? But today, we're taking a very big interest in it because when you're in that state of noticing the quietness, that's a state in which there's no resistance to feeling anything. And especially if you just make the decision that when we tell the body to show us the energy cloud of this sadness, that you're going to allow, when it shows it to you, you're going to allow yourself to feel it. Okay, so you take on that attitude, and what you start to do is start looking off to the side of the thoughts and noticing the background of silence. And it doesn't take long for another thought to come along and sort of interrupt the silence. So you don't stay in a kind of continuous experience of the silence right away. You notice it gets interrupted by a thought. You look off to the side of the new thought and notice the quietness again. Then another thought comes along. You look off to the side of the next thought, notice the quietness again. So you get this sort of sequence of little tastes of the quietness. That kind of makes sense? Yeah, good. So do that, and each time a thought comes, look off to the side. Notice that sort of emptiness or quietness in the background. You don't even have to finish the thought because you're just observing them and you're not concerned with the content or the meaning. You can even just sort of interrupt the thought just after it starts and look off to the side and notice the quietness. So we're favoring noticing the quietness instead of the thoughts. And as you do that again and again, you start to get a little bit more familiar with this state of quietness that's in the background than perhaps you've been in the past, just because you're kind of allowing yourself to notice it. And even though there's nothing there, you can still experience it. Ready to ask? Okay. So now you can tell the body just by having the thought, okay, body, I'm ready to feel this thing. Show me the out technique energy, the cloud of energy of the sadness that I've been feeling. And pretty much immediately, yeah, it'll show you some cloud of sadness energy. Now, don't collapse into the cloud and get swept away by it. Just notice it. And the instruction is very simple. We're just going to go see how big it is. So let your awareness move out into the space around you further and further. It's like you're kind of moving through the energy field. What we're looking for is the place where the energy sort of fades off into the surrounding quietness. And we're interested in accessing that quietness that's outside the cloud of energy. So you just keep going until you come to that place where it's usually not kind of like a hard edge, like a bubble. It's more like it just kind of fading off into the surrounding quietness. And want to just keep going until you get to the place where there's not even any more fading off energy. It's just quiet. When you get there, let me know. Got it. Okay. So now go a little bit deeper into the quietness, a little further away from the energy cloud. And we do this in order to get the distinction between the energy and the quietness even more clear. You do that by just noticing the area of the quietness that's a little further away. Easy to do. Okay, so now go much, much deeper into the quietness, quite far away from the energy field.
I can't seem to get away from my chest.
What's that?
I can't seem to get away from the feeling.
Oh, the feeling in your chest. Yeah, for the moment, don't be concerned about, the energy in the chest. When we're finished, it'll very likely just be gone. Okay, so something we need to do about that at the moment? No, it's okay. It's going to go away when we finish this process. Yeah, it'll go away when we finish this process. So just don't be concerned about it. So from way out here in the expansiveness of your own awareness, just go really deep into that quietness. You'll notice that there's kind of no end to it. It has this quality of just being sort of limitless and vast. You get a sense of that? Yeah.
Clear.
Kind of a nice place to hang out. Now, you'll notice that there's no sadness out here. It's just peaceful, expansive, quiet. Yeah. And as you look back at the energy cloud that you were inside of just moments ago, what's happening to it? Probably doesn't feel like it has the grip on you that it had when you were inside of it.
Yeah, it's just doing its thing. I'm imagining like
So there's a kind of little dust devil, little like mini hurricane kind of structure there. Huh?
yeah, it's there, but it doesn't seem to have any. It's fine.
No big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just check with the muscle testing. We need to do something about that. No. Okay. So again, that's probably going to go when this is done. So notice that this sadness energy is a reaction to some kind of story, even a kind of feeling level story that you've been holding inside, some version of, oh, it shouldn't have happened the way it did, should have happened differently. You get a sense of that?
I'm asking myself right now for where that story is.
Yeah.
Can you think of a good way to formulate that question?
Yeah, the question is, do you have some sense that there's a feeling of disappointment, like that something should have happened differently according to what you thought you wanted to have happen, but it didn't. It happened as it did, and it wasn't to your liking. And this is kind of like the origin of feeling sad about that.
Oh man, I just got in the
Sorry?
middle of it somehow. I just had the sense of like being in the middle of a little tornado.
Oh, okay. Actually, let's deal with that. This tornado-like thing, notice that there's an eye of the hurricane in the center of it. Okay? And what I'd like you to do is to experiment with kind of skydiving right into the eye. This paragliding right down into the eye. And when you get inside the eye, you know, they say it's calm in the eye of a hurricane, and you'll experience that. If you get inside, you'll have this feeling of calmness, even though there's this kind of swirling energy sort of all around you. And just let yourself sort of glide down the center of the vortex of that eye until you come out the bottom. It's kind of a cool experience, actually. And when you do get to the bottom and you come out the bottom of the eye, the whole energy of the dust devil hurricane-like structure will just kind of dissipate and move away, kind of like when you were doing the in-technique energies earlier. So when you do come out the bottom and the energy's gone, you can let me know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. When you do that, it just sort of disappears. Good job.
Thanks.
Interestingly enough, Wes, what you just did is a kind of second stage of learning about the in techniques. The first way is doing it as you did earlier. And the second way is that all of the in technique energies have this kind of hurricane-like structure to them. And if you can get close enough to the center of it and dive in like you just did, you notice how quickly that went. It was like much more efficient than what we did before. So good job. That's really good. So you're actually already doing an advanced version of dealing with that kind of energy. That's actually really good. The reason you could do that is you're starting to acclimate to being present to the intensity of the energy. It's starting to have like, it's not such a big deal. Okay. That's great. Okay, let's go back to that cloud of energy that you were inside of before. If you think back on that, the sadness feeling, any of that cloud still left?
No.
Okay, and how about that feeling that you had in your heart that when we're doing that? Is there anything of that left?
Yeah, there's some little bit of tightness.
A little bit of tightness? Okay, so go ahead and focus right into the center of that tightness, just like we did in the first stage. And get as close to it as you can. And just feel down into it to completion again. This one won't take so long. It's not that much there. Softening a bit.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. You're doing great. How is it now?
It's rather subtle.
Very good. Subtle is good. Gone is optimal.
Hmm.
Subtle means you're very close to the end. That's good. Get as close to it as you can and just really allow yourself to feel whatever's left of it very thoroughly. The basic concept is we feel the energy so thoroughly, so completely that there's nothing left to feel.
Cat's very insistent.
You can feel your energy shifting. It wants to be around. Cat can sense a good thing when it's happening. That's great. Just a little bit left.
Wow.
Feels like it's gone?
It's a little nugget. It's
Okay.
just shockingly small and
Okay.
powerful.
Okay. And sometimes there can be a little kernel like that, kind of like right at the end, no problem. Just be laser-like right into the center of it like you did with the rock. Just really allow yourself to feel the essence of whatever's left. And it's very, very good to be really complete about it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the idea.
There's a friendly aspect about it now for the first time.
Friendly is good. Okay. So does it feel like the disruptive energy of it is gone now?
Oh yeah, it's just a little ball of tension, little ball, maybe
Okay.
a tad bit of heat, but
Let's see. We have to do something about that? No, I think that's just going to resolve on its own. This is like I was saying about the tension that of the actual tissues that just need to kind of have a little time to integrate, unwind themselves. This is what's happening. Yeah, good. Okay, good. Excellent. Really good. Okay, so there's one remaining out technique energy, and then we're going to be finished with this whole topic. Okay, you're going to feel like $1,000,000, like you haven't felt in years. In fact, you're already starting to feel that way. Okay? So the last part is I was testing what it might be while you were doing the previous technique here. And I was testing through the different kind of reactive emotions. And what I got was might be some form of kind of frustration. Like you've probably felt frustrated that you haven't been able to handle this or deal with it for like years. Yeah.
yeah.
Probably something like, yeah, yeah. So let's even get rid of that. Okay. So you don't even have to deal with that. Okay. You up for that?
Sure. Yeah, there's this thought of like, man, frustration's my middle name.
Wesley Frustration Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's change your middle name here.
Okay.
All right, so that probably means it's not difficult to get in touch with the energy. You know what frustration feels like, very familiar to you. But allowing yourself to notice that the energy of the frustration radiates out from your body and fills up the space around you, that may be a little different, to just allow yourself to notice that. But if you allow yourself to, you'll sense it. You'll feel this like probably pretty big cloud of frustration energy just kind of engulfing.
Yeah, I can feel my skin tingle.
Yeah, that's the kind of close part of it to your body. But if you allow yourself to notice it, you'll feel it that it just sort of radiates out. It's subtler. It's much subtler than the tornado-like ones, right? It's just kind of, but it's there. It's something other than the quietness. It's not that quietness. It's got a texture and quality to it that we call frustration.
Yeah, it's kind of it's creating a lot of it's like like muscle
Constriction.
contraction.
Yeah, sometimes the energy can have this kind of oppressive sort of feeling, particularly frustration. It can have that kind of quality of being a bit sort of oppressive. Okay, so if you can feel it now, it's probably the origin point of it there in your throat. Like you had the origin point of that earlier one in your heart, right? The sadness one, the origin. But when it was done, it's like, it's all gone, okay? So we don't have to deal with that part. It's not an extra in-technique energy. It's in-technique energy? No. It's just the kind of origin point of where the energy is radiating out from. But you don't normally let yourself notice that it's radiating out. But we're doing all kinds of things that are the opposite of what you're used to doing today. And that's what's needed is we need something new, right? And it's working. Okay, it's working really well. You're doing a fabulous job. I really honor you for being a real trooper and hanging in there. It's great. So this is the last part. So close your eyes again and allow yourself to notice that the energy is radiating out into the space around you, and it's creating this kind of oppressive, frustrated energy kind of feeling. And don't stay stuck in it. Let yourself go see how big it is. We want to get outside of it into that quietness that surrounds it again. Doesn't matter how big it is. There are all kinds of different sizes. These things doesn't matter. Just go see how big it is and find the outer edge and the surrounding quietness.
Do I like look for the outer edge like somewhere in the room or like
No. Keep your eyes closed and just do it in like, it's kind of like, you might call it imagining it, okay? You're actually experiencing it with what we call the subtle senses, but it seems like imagining. And you just sort of let your awareness move out through it until you find the place where the energy just kind of fades away into the surrounding quietness. And again, when you find it, let me know. When you get access to the quietness. Yeah.
I'm there.
Okay, good. So now, again, go a little bit deeper into the quietness, a little further away from the edge of the energy field. And again, you do that by just noticing the area of the quietness that's a little further away. It's very easy to do. And this helps make the distinction between the quietness and the energy field even more clear. Okay, and then again, go much deeper into the quietness. Just go further and further and further away from the energy field. And again, allow yourself to notice that quietness just has this quality of being vast and expansive and just limitless. No frustration out here, just quietness, kind of emptiness, peaceful, nice place to be. Get a sense of that? Very good. Now, if again you look back at the cloud of energy that you were inside of just moments ago, that frustration cloud, notice what's happening to it. It's probably kind of shrinking and fading away. It's like it doesn't have the grip on you that it had when you were inside of it.
It's true.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good. And you may notice that that this sense of frustration is again coming from a story that you've had running in your mind, kind of like only partially conscious of it, not super conscious of it. But there's been a kind of story like, oh, how frustrating. I can't seem to find an answer for this. Like, where's the answer? Is there even an answer? Do I have to stay stuck in this kind of feeling my whole life? Is like something like that. There's kind of some story running, and the frustration energy is actually a reaction to the story. That's why we call it a reactive emotion. And you'll notice that this doesn't really have much to do with this moment. It's really about all these experiences you've had in the past of not being able to overcome this. And so it's an important distinction to get that the emotion is a reaction to the story, and that the story isn't even relevant to this moment. And if we challenge the story a little bit, the reason we want to challenge the story is because the frustration energy field is a reaction to the story. And if you don't have the story in your awareness anymore, then you won't have the feeling of frustration. Right? So we want to check out and see whether allowing this story to be in your awareness is really buying you anything. Is it helping you to not feel frustrated to have this story running in your mind? Obviously not, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not helping. Okay. And is it bringing you the quality of life that you want to have to keep this story, allowing this story to be in your awareness? No. Okay. And so, is it a good investment of your life energy to continue to allow this story to be present there? Basically just draining your life energy and not buying you anything, right?
Right.
So it's like totally worthless. And in fact, it's basically just a bad habit that you haven't been aware enough of, that's just been kind of running on automatic without you really realizing you were doing it. Mm-hmm. But now we've made this sort of unconscious element of it much more conscious. It's like now you can see the reality of what's going on, that you've been inadvertently running a story out of a habitual, just, you grew up in a world where everybody does this, you just learned how to do it by almost like by osmosis or something. So you've been doing this and having this reaction, and it's reasonable, it has been frustrating. But holding on to the story that is frustrating isn't serving you. And you can see that now. You can also probably sense that you have much more of a sense of choice about whether you continue to allow this story to be in your awareness or not. You get that? You feel a little bit more empowered now that you're outside the energy field.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So all you have to do at this point, Wes, is just simply decide not to give this story any more energy. Just not allow it to be there. And you actually have the power to determine that. Nobody's making you run this story. You've just been doing it inadvertently out of like a bad habit. And to break the habit, all you have to do is just decide you're not going to do that anymore. And the moment you decide that, any remaining energy and the story itself will collapse back into the nothingness out of which you created them in the first place. And then they'll be gone.
Wow.
All right. Kind of magical.
Yeah, damn. Here I was trying to argue the story, argue with the story.
Yeah. And there's no need to argue. All you have to do is let it go. It's like unplugging the power cord. Just don't give it any more energy. Yeah. If it ever starts to try and rear its ugly head out of nothingness in the future, you'll recognize it immediately and it'll be like, ridiculous. I'm not going to run that story anymore. Doesn't serve me in any way, shape, or form. Okay, good job. So let's check it out. There's something else that's contributing to Wes's depression experience. No. All right, so now it's time to check out your intention. I think it was, I have a passion for life, right? Yeah, so say it again. Say, I have a passion for life.
I have a passion for life.
Now it's testing as strong. You're congruent with it, okay? All of the energies that were sabotaging that have been causing you to feel so frustrated, sad, deeply pained by things that have happened in the past, even if you don't even remember what they are, all of that energy is now completely cleared up. You did an absolutely fabulous job. Okay? Now, here's the thing. The real test of this is going to be to see how you actually feel and how it feels to be in life with some passion again, okay, over the coming days ahead. So what I'd like to do is to check in with you in maybe like a couple of weeks,
Oh, yeah.
and just check in to see how you're doing. So we can determine, did it work? And did it work in a way where it's lasting? That's, we want this to be like a permanent new state of being, right?
Right.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll be in touch with you like by email or messenger or something. We'll figure out the best way. Email's fine. And we'll set up a time for some time, like in a couple of weeks. And we'll just check in, maybe have like 5-10 minute video conference call like this and just see how you're doing. Okay. And that way, this will be a good kind of follow-up reality check so we can really make sure that something, that it's really okay. If in the meantime, anything comes up where you feel really challenged, drop me a note. We can always get back on for a few minutes and clean it up. Okay. But it's testing that we're pretty, see, what we've done, I've used the muscle testing to help us pinpoint exactly those specific energies that have been contributing to your depression experience and these related things like the frustration and the sadness. Okay? So those particular ones are gone. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have other ones in there. Everybody's got two big databases, one big database of the reactive emotions and another big database of the emotionally painful ones. But the specific ones that have been contributing to this problem, okay, these are now resolved. I had a very clear intention that we're hunting for those, okay? Because I've done this work for so long, I know you need to be really, really precise and specific for what you're looking for, because then the body shows you the right stuff, and it did, okay? So we're gonna check back in like a couple of weeks, see how you're doing.
Okay.
And I think we're done for today. Fantastic job, man. Great job. You really hung in there. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. God, yeah, that took a minute.
A couple of hours. Huh? No problem. No problem. Delightful to meet you.
Yes,
and,
great to meet you.
I think what you're going to experience here is that your life is going to really be transformed for this.
That would be wild.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for volunteering. Really appreciate it. And especially appreciate how much of a trooper you were. Just keep going for it. It was like, that was really great. Really, really great.
Hey,
okay, man. All right. So take care. I'll be in touch and, we'll set up a time sometime in the coming days. We'll set up a time for something in a couple of weeks and we'll follow up and see how you're doing. Probably we'll do it again, like maybe 3 months after that, just so we get a really, long-term picture of, is it continuing to hold? Is it continuing to work? Or is it creeping back in some way? We don't want that. Okay, so we'll check in because we want this to be like a permanent transformation for your life. That's the whole goal. Okay. All right, man. Take care.
All right, super. Thank you. Good
Bye-bye.
night or good morning, whatever China is like.
Yeah, high five all the way to China. We're getting a little note in the chat from Susan Liu, who was watching, and she's saying thank you very much to both of us. So that's great.
Okay.
We actually had 3 people observing, and they hung in there with us the whole time, which is
that's some patience.
Yeah, so that's really great. Okay, wonderful. Take care, Wes. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.